The first movie is this movie called Monster. And this is with Kelvin Harrison Jr., and he plays this kind of smart, this really likable young man in Harlem who is trying to navigate his community. He has one foot in that middle class life, and then he has that other foot in the rest of the ecosystem of Harlem. And there's a couple of things that but he is being charged with murder. He gets caught up in a crime and he's being charged with murder. He has to go to jail, and we spend the movie trying to figure out, did he do it? Did he not do it? Is he guilty? Is he innocent? And but throughout that, we get to learn about this young man. What I like about this film, and I like a number of things about this film. The first thing is that we learn about him, is that we get this look into this guy it's so personal, in fact, that we see what he's thinking, what he likes. And it's just not that kind of typical story of something happens to someone and we see what happens to them, but we don't see who they are. So I really like that. But we also see how the community really does support itself in this way, how a young gangbanger or a young street guy, if you will, kind of takes him under his wing and says, yo, we can have intelligent conversation. And what I like about that is that it shows that this guy who is on the edge of society is smart, intelligent, can think, and all of that. And then I like that they show that they keep us suspenseful in this film. Is that I really am sitting up there like, did he do it? Did he not do it? And of course, I can't tell you if he did it here, but I like this one, and I liked it a lot. KB.
Listen, I feel like Kelvin Harrison Jr. always gives a top tier performance pretty much in everything that he does. But what I liked most about this film, to Reggie's point, there is a humanization aspect of it. And I feel like, in real life and in art, which often imitates life, we do not humanize Black and brown boys specifically, because in this film, Kelvin Harrison plays a boy. He is not yet a man. He is, trying to figure out who he wants to become. He has this diverse friend group. He has interests in movies, and, he's a filmmaker and an aspiring filmmaker. His dad is an artist. And so he is just learning about who he is. And I like that layer. I like that depth, that he's allowed to make these mistakes. Often in life, we see oftentimes with white counterparts, they are able to make big and bold mistakes and not be pinned to the grave or pinned to the cross for it, so to speak. They're able to do these types of things. So for me, it was an interesting kind of twist, I guess, on what happens in the real world and if someone was supposed to be in the scenario. So you are spending the majority of the film figuring out whether or not he's guilty or even just an accomplice, because really you're not sure, you don't know. But it does really, really speak on, kind of the aspect of forgiveness and the judicial system and how they treat Black and brown boys. And is there a space to be able to allow them to make a mistake and recover from that? Or, is the system how the system is? And, you are going to be charged and convicted and you go to jail. And so it's interesting. But I think one of the most interesting dynamics for me of the film is his relationship with his lawyer, because she's a white woman. And it's interesting to me because he's constantly having to explain to her what it means to be Black and male in this scenario. And so their dynamic is really interesting. I feel like she's doing her job, but she's not really, really doing her job until he forces her to understand his perspective and what's going on. So I
love
really
that.
enjoyed it.
I love that, KB. I have a comment on that, but I'll bring Katya in on this.
I think that is very important to see. These lawyers, a lot of defense lawyers that are court appointed, they have such a heavy caseload that a lot of them are very mechanical. They don't want to know if you're innocent, if you're guilty. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to do what I have to do to give you the best possible defense. And his whole thing is like, don't you want to get to know me a little bit, understand how I move, so that you can defend me a little bit better? And I think and I think sadly, this isn't just with white people. I think this is Black defense lawyers too. They're just it's all part of a very bad mechanism. The other thing too that I liked is that it showed that his parents didn't give up on him. Too often, because of financial situation, traumatization, the list goes on and on. These parents are showed as being conditioned, like, okay, just take a deal, you'll be out in 10 years, you'll still be young, you can still live your life. Whereas his parents advocated for him, fought with him, showed up. And I think we don't see that often enough, where as it's always like, well, that's just the man and you can't do nothing about it. And I think that's really, really important. And also it's like what KB said is, we don't think about young Black boys' futures. We always think about, well, this person has this, and that's why in some of these cases, when the worst of crimes are being done, you're like, this person raped someone, and you put them on probation? Are you serious? So I think that was also nice to see, and I agree with you. I think in my book, Kelvin can't do any wrong. He's just amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys mentioned that. So it's really interesting, KB, the relationship that got you the most, because that's an important relationship. It's interesting, the relationship from Katya, because we get Jennifer Hudson and Jeffrey Wright playing his parents, and that's a relationship that got her. The relationship for me was the relationship in the hood. That was the one for me, because I could totally identify with somebody in the hood standing there saying, I got you, dude. I got your back. I know you different. I know you off on that other path, but I'll watch out for you. And then to have the intellect and intelligence. I just think that what they did with this movie is that the fact that the three of us took at least a favorite part, not that we didn't like the other parts from this film, shows that it was very well thought out in the way in which it was written. And it's very well done, I think, in the way in which it keeps us on edge, if you will. So, Katya, I don't know. I do know. For me, this is a watch it. I just like what they did for this movie all the way around. And I know it was done in 2018. And so I know it took a long time to release this one, but this is a watch it for me. Katya.
It's a watch it.
And then for you, KB.
Watch it, definitely.